Unless you've been living under a rock for the past few weeks, you've probably heard of this term, quid pro quo. People on the left and the right have been arguing if there was or wasn't quid pro quo between the president and Ukraine. It's a lot. And I'm here to talk about quid pro quo, which has different meanings in different contexts. And unless you speak Latin or are fluent in legalese, you might not know what those other meanings are. Let's just start with the basics. So quid pro quo is a 14th century Latin term meaning something for something. The term is used to describe a situation in which two parties engage in a mutual agreement to exchange goods or services, and that one transfer is contingent upon another transfer. Not to turn this into a Latin lesson, but there is another Latin term that has a very similar meaning to quid pro quo. Do what des basically translates to, I give that you may give. Sounds pretty much the same, right? But this is where our legalese starts to overlap with our Latin. This phrase is also used to describe agreements like quid pro quo, but it is only used in civil law cases for contracts that are considered innominate, which are contracts that have no particular name or class. Now back to quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is slightly different in a business context than how we are hearing about it on the news with the impeachment inquiry. For one, quid pro quo is a good thing in business, but not only is it good, it is required for a contract to become legally binding in business. There must be some sort of exchange of a good, service, money, or financial instrument for a business agreement. If that agreement appears to be lacking quid pro quo, the contract may be deemed void for being unfair or one-sided. For example, if I order, say, a shirt online and I pay for that shirt, then that business and I made a quid pro quo agreement. They are sending me a shirt and I am giving them money. But if I pay for that shirt online and it never comes, then our contract is lacking quid pro quo and may be considered void. Now, in US politics, on the other hand, lobbyists are permitted to support candidates or elected officials who hold positions that they agree with. However, this financial support becomes illegal and is considered corruption and or bribery when there's explicit quid pro quo. Seems pretty simple, but there are various legal interpretations for what constitutes explicit quid pro quo. Some judges interpret explicit as an expressed promise. Other courts have held that this quid pro quo does not need to be expressed, but just inferred to be explicit. The Teapot Dome scandal of the 1920s is one of the most notable instances of quid pro quo political corruption. The story basically goes that President Warren G. Harding appointed Senator Robert Fall of New Mexico as Secretary of the Interior. Now, Secretary Fall leased exclusive drilling rights of the Teapot Dome oil site to Mammoth Oil Company, which was owned by Harry Sinclair. Sound familiar? Anyways, Harry Sinclair was actually a friend of Secretary Fall. After some shady business dealings with the oil site, the Senate launched an investigation into Secretary Fall. The Senate investigation revealed that Secretary Fall received hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes from oil companies and was convicted of bribery by the Senate. Those are the basics on quid pro quo. If you like this video and want to see more from No Labels, make sure to give us a thumbs up.